Let's look at the downhole pump now. So we've looked at the tubing and the rods, and really this is the heart of the rod pumping system. So everything in the rod pumping system is about actuating this downhole pump, and we'll look at the components of that here on this particular slide. But what is the downhole pump doing? So when you see this illustration in the course, this is going to be your tubing right here, this is your rod string, and this is your downhole pump. Here is our fluid level. But the downhole pump is taking fluid at the pump intake pressure, and that's going to be low pressure fluid because there's not a large column of liquid sitting on it, and it has to compress that to a significantly higher pressure. It has to compress it to the pump discharge pressure, and this is going to be the pressure at the bottom of the tubing. So if this was a 10,000 foot well, and let's say that the well is basically pumped off, the pump intake pressure might only be 50 psi, but the pump discharge pressure could be 4,000 psi. So the pump has to take the 50 psi fluid and compress it to 4,000 psi in order to push it above the traveling valve. So this is the pump chamber. This is where the compression occurs right here. And before I start this video, this is the plunger. Here is the traveling valve on the bottom of the plunger assembly, and here's the standing valve, which is at the bottom of the barrel assembly. We're going to get to understand this very well, but this is what is happening. Okay, so on the upstroke, the fluid, and let me just pause it right there. If you see a ball off the seat, it's off the seat because fluid is rushing by it, and that means there's a lower pressure zone right here. So, or at least in this illustration, that means I should say actually, the pressure below it is higher than the pressure above. So in that case, when the plunger moves up, it creates a lower pressure zone that sucks in fluid, and that causes the ball to come off the seat. Now, if I start the video again, now that fluid gets trapped there, and as the plunger comes down, it gets compressed and pushed above the plunger. So fluid's trapped, it's compressed. Watch, fluid is sucked into the pump chamber, trapped and compressed and pushed above. And once it gets above the traveling valve, it's effectively in the bottom of the tubing at the pump discharge pressure. So if we look at what's happening here, the rods are stretching. So what happens on the upstroke, I should say, is at surface, the pumping unit goes up and the rods stretch, as we saw. Then it pulls the plunger up. Okay, after the rod stretch has been taken out of the system, fluid is sucked into the pump chamber, the area between these valves. On the downstroke, the rod stretch is released, and then the plunger starts to move down, and fluid in the pump is compressed and pushed above the plunger into the bottom of the tubing. That's what we're seeing. So fluid is sucked in, gets trapped, compressed, pushed up. This is what the whole system is about. Okay, it's just about actuating this downhole pump in order for fluid to be sucked in, compressed, and pushed into the bottom of the tubing, and that fluid is going to slowly migrate its way up each stroke, up to surface and into our tanks so that we can sell it.